It's my first time out on a bike for 5 days after that big build block, doing horrible VO2 sessions, hill reps, and lifting pretty heavy in the gym. I don't mind telling you I was tired. So an extra couple of days off seemed the right thing to do, especially as next week I'm heading off to Tenerife for 2 weeks. I've got a big block of training, so I want to be properly rested for that, and I want my legs to feel really good.
Hey folks, Simon from Velo Performance. Now in this video I'm going to talk about coaching and training masters athletes and cyclists, because some of you guys have asked me this particular question. So I'm going to talk about my thoughts and my understanding of why I think we should be training this way, both men and women, and how I include this in my own training with this deep rooted focus that often surprises a lot of other cyclists. Righty, let's talk about what is effective for master cyclists and the fundamentals of strength, power and speed on the bike as you get older. And if you stick around, I'm going to talk about the nutritional practices that I put into place with the cyclists that I coach that gets the best out of their training and their recovery, and it's not all just about protein.
So we're going to add some protein, take some ice cubes, dip them in protein, throw them in the mix, then add some protein, and then, and only then, can you add some protein and blend.
The two fundamental pillars of anybody's cycling speed and power is strength and endurance capacity. Now I know you think I was going to talk about VO2 threshold, lactate threshold. That will come into this video later on, but the very base of everybody's fitness and power has to be a really strong, robust engine, and that's got to be the foundation of their aerobic base and strength. Aerobic training increases the capillary density in aerobic muscles. It increases mitochondrial density within the aerobic muscles. It increases aerobic enzyme activity. It gives us the architecture to ride longer at faster speeds and use lactate as a fuel source. This strongly built architecture helps raise our VO2. So, should you as a master cyclist just spend a lot of your time doing aerobic and forgoing everything else? Well, the answer to that isn't so easy, because it depends on how long you've been riding your bike. If you're a master cyclist who's been riding since conception, then realistically what you need to be doing is making sure that you're holding on to that aerobic pool that you've built over the many years you've been riding a bike. It doesn't need to be such a massive priority to grow because you've already got it. It's just about maintaining it. But if you're new to cycling, then this is something you need to make a strong element of your training. Now, I'm not saying as a master cyclist who's new to cycling that you shouldn't be doing harder training sessions like VO2. Doing that kind of training will definitely build your power, strength and speed. But from experience as a coach and what I've seen for people who start into riding a bike, that if they don't have that aerobic pool that long-term master cyclists have, when they start riding longer distances, they fatigue much quicker. So you can see why I'm saying it's important to make that a big focus of your training when you first get started. When you look at the literature on older populations, we know that as we age, our muscle quality, quantity, size and function start to decline. But here's the exciting thing. If you train it in a specific way, you can mitigate this, potentially even reverse it, ward it off for a very long time, and it can make you very strong on a bike. You may have noticed I mentioned the word specificity here. So I got in touch with Chris from Barbells and Bikes. He's a cyclist who specialises in strength and conditioning. Messaged him and said, are you free to jump on a Zoom call and talk about strength and conditioning for master cyclists? And yeah, he was. And this is what he had to say.
I think firstly, as you mentioned, the key is that strength training needs to be a real pillar of our training. In cycling, both in younger cycling and in master cycling, there's still this attitude towards strength training as being a winter thing, and even more so as masters cyclists, we need to make sure that strength training is something that is part of our schedule year long. Now, as you said, age-related muscle sarcopenia is something that happens as we get older. We lose lean muscle tissue. Now, we want to do everything we can to mitigate that. Now, strength training is a skill. And depending on our training age, we can get an increase in strength through right at the start, just doing body weight exercises, because we're getting an increase in neural drive, we're learning how to move, and that will, if our strength training age is very low, that is enough for us to start getting developments. But there is a point where that stops and we need to add load. And this is something that, yes, you can do at home with dumbbells or kettlebells, but ultimately the best place to be doing it is in the gym. We're trying to build it on a foundation of good movement, and that's where the skill of strength is important. But also we can do exercises that require less skill that give us the same outcomes. Mm-hmm. So now, do we need to front squat? Do we need to back squat? No, they aren't these sort of exercises that everyone needs to do. Yes, they are very functional and useful in later in life, but we can also sit on a leg press and get the same outcome. And I've seen you've mentioned this in some of your posts. We're trying to complement our cycling, but what is key is lifting enough to stimulate the adaptations that we need, and that has to be done with load.
So it's a bit like a tier system. So you could, when you first get started, work on body weight, then do things like TRX and kettlebells at home. And then so you're getting that point of diminishing returns on each level.
Absolutely.
And at some point, you need to move the needle up a little bit.
Completely.
And then when you get into the gym, that's when you can start maybe working on a bit more skill acquisition alongside absolute strength.
Absolute strength we can keep fairly simple, right? We can look at, when we go to the gym, we can have our key exercise that is our strength exercise for that session, whether it's a unilateral or a bilateral lift. So I know both you and me, one of our go-to exercises is a trap bar deadlift. So that is our exercise that I will look at being my key strength exercise. So I'm looking in that 3 to 5 rep range. We're looking at enough load. So those last 2 exercises are pretty tough. We've maybe got 1 or 2 reps in reserve, but we're stimulating. We're trying to really stimulate the body to get those adaptations that we're looking for, both from a muscular level, but also from a skeletal level. Yeah, we're looking at that increase in bone mineral density, and then again, it has to happen through having increased load going through the body. But we chatted very briefly before we came on the podcast today, is that there's other skills that we need to keep as we get older, right? Mm-hmm. We need to jump, we need to hop. These things that we do as children, as we get older, we just stop doing them. Those sort of athletic qualities that we want to maintain, and they do have a positive impact carrying over onto the bike. But much more so, if we're looking at life and longevity, that ability as we get older, and we maybe we're walking along and we slip and we have to go onto one leg and decelerate and control our body weight. These are skills that are really important, and I believe that should be included in a balanced training program, especially for masters athletes, so we can keep doing what we love, but stay healthy and stay strong.
Yeah, so actually that's such a cool point to put in. Now, lots of different angles to look at. And obviously at Velo, what we're trying to do is improve people's ability to ride bikes hard and fast as they get older. So we're basically looking at how their physiology can detrain over time and putting the right training in place to make sure that doesn't happen for whatever they're trying to do and achieve. But we're also thinking about long-term longevity. So I want anybody that's working with us or a part of Velo to, if they ever leave, go away and go, I've got all the skill and understanding to be able to do this for the rest of my life, and also hit 90 and be strong and not just be able to get out of a chair, which I think is the most ridiculous thought process. And it is like, I want to have the ability to be able to get out of a chair. I always say, no, you want to think better than that. You want to be able to get 90 and lift heavy stuff over your head.
Yes.
Because if your only ability to get out of it, or you can only get out of a chair at 90, what's the quality of your life there?
Yes, I mean, it's we are, humans are amazing, right? We are capable of so much as we get older, but that the cliche, if you don't use it, you lose it, is very true as we get older. So
yeah,
stay strong, stay lifting. Don't think that deadlifting and squatting and step ups are something for the under 40s. You know, just we keep doing it. We keep saying strong, and the impact that that has on the quality of our lives is huge.
One thing I've noticed as people get older is they have that sort of almost shift change in their mindset where we need to be a little bit more sort of slowing down and doing less. And I know a lot of people look at what I do and go, well, that's quite radical what you're doing. You're going to the gym and lifting, double your body weight, and shouldn't you be slowing down a little bit? Well, that's not the way they look at it. Whereas a lot of people who are my age and getting in towards 60 suddenly back off from going to the gym and start doing a bit more yoga and Pilates. And now we've talked about this before, and we're not hating on it. But what we say is it should be part and parcel alongside a really well thought out, tough strength training plan that is delivered to make sure that you are driving the adaptation of being very strong next to body weight and movement pattern. And the two can exist together, but taking one out, so the hard strength training and the tough strength training, in my mind, is not a good idea.
No, it's not. No, it's absolutely. And again, yoga and Pilates have their place, and as part of a balanced training program, I think they can be hugely beneficial. But strength training has to be the cornerstone of that. Strength training will underpin everything. It's all very well having amazing mobility, but unless you've got strength in those end ranges of movement, it's not that useful for us, right? We need to be strong, and we can look. I like to look at strength training as almost as a form of mobility training as well, right? So if you're doing a squat and you're going into a deep squat or a deep lunge position, we're working full range of movement through those joints, but we're doing it with load. So we're teaching the body to tolerate loads at different joint angles, which is, again, very, very important as we get older. We want to sort of work on this spectrum of this strength curve, right? So we want to be lifting some stuff. We're working sort of 85-90% of our 1 rep maxes, but we also want to be doing some sort of 20 to 30% quicker, some jumps, some bounds, some hops, and as we said before, they are really key in not only maintaining our athleticism, but also our rate of force production. So we have strength, but it's how quickly we can apply that strength, which on a bike is really important, right? Just being strong is important, but when it comes to pushing up a climb, pushing in a sprint, we want to be able to access that strength really quickly.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Just to clear something up here, you were saying you want people to move fast with the weight. That's not straight off, though. They need to build up to that.
Again, as we said before, strength training is a skill, and I like the phrase "tempo teaches movement." So often, when I am getting clients to squat and teach movement patterns to stuff, I slow those tempos right down. We'll work like a 4-second negative, and so we're really learning and thinking about that movement and where we are in space and how we're doing it. Then when we've got this foundation of good quality movement, we can then start, adding the load, adding the intent, adding the density of the workouts.
Yeah. So it's like as you say, it's like a learning curve, and it's also like that building phase where you sort of build that awesome foundation and grow from there, from your acquisition of skill and also your acquisition of strength and power. Then you can build from it and start creating that sort of extra addition of that layer of being able to move faster and be even stronger, more powerful, more reactive.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are skills that we need to just keep going with.
Blimey, we've covered a lot of ground here today. I think what's a good idea is I'm going to break the subject of training and coaching master cyclists into 3 different videos. So in the next video, I think I'm going to talk about intensity and what I think we should be focusing on as master cyclists, both male and female, to make sure that we are warding off any age-related decline. I'll talk about why recovery is really important and why we need to think about it slightly differently to our younger counterparts. And in the third video, I'll talk about nutrition and what we should be focusing on as master cyclists, and why a lot of master cyclists, I think, are getting this wrong. And I'll give practical examples of what's worked for me, what works for the cyclists that I coach that's helped them stay energized on their bikes and still looking lean well into their 50s. Righty, let's wrap it up there. We've covered a lot of ground today on training for endurance for master cyclists and strength training. If you're new here and you don't want to miss the other 2 videos in this series, hit subscribe. If you've got any questions about training, stick them in the box below. I love the fact that we have conversations here on YouTube. And I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching.
Now, while you guys weren't looking, I actually went back and added some protein.